Slappy pappy wan wan gee.
Right.
The spicy shit's fucking with my head. As I've explored curry culture in New York City, one common misconception is that it should be cheap, fast, and delivered in a styrofoam container. But there's a rich tradition of high-end Indian restaurants in New York City that challenge that expectation and deliver Michelin-starred food worthy of a celebratory splurge. Today, I'm hitting Junoon with someone who definitely deserves to celebrate. Aasif Mandvi is a hilarious comedian, actor, and Daily Show vet who's killing it with his one-man show, Sakina's Restaurant, and we're gonna see what fancy curry is all about. Thank you, Aasif, for joining me on this lovely evening.
I think you're actually joining me.
Oh, okay. I'm joining you.
Yeah, I was just here, and then you just came and sat down with this whole crew.
It is what happened, and I've never been here, and you've been here, so...
I'm here all the time.
You were born in Mumbai, and then you moved to the UK. How do you see curry change within those cultures?
The UK has a very long history with India through colonialism and all that. So when the British were in India, they took our spices and they went back to England and they created this dish called chicken tikka masala. And then they brought it back to India, and then they convinced the Indians it was their food. And I'm telling everyone right now, it's not our food.
And then in the US, it's a different take on curry.
I mean, when I first got to America, and that was like in the 80s, many people had never even tried Indian food. I think still today there are Americans that have never tried Indian food. Like, I think it's still considered a kind of exotic, other food, you know?
So before we have our first meal, we're gonna toss it to the kitchen and see what we're about to eat.
My name is Akshay Bhardwaj. I'm the executive chef at Junoon restaurant, which is an upscale, modern Indian fine dining restaurant. We try to go with a modern twist on traditional dishes so that when a guest comes, that they don't feel like they're necessarily in an Indian restaurant. They're at an upscale restaurant that serves Indian food. For Jesslyn and Aasif, I prepared 3 dishes: the ghost chili murg tikka, the shahi lamb shank, as well as the lobster moily. So for the ghost chili murg tikka, we prepared it by making a marination with hung yogurt, ginger garlic paste, fenugreek powder, black salt, garam masala powder, and then we finish it off with our ghost pepper paste. It's not going to completely destroy a guest's palate, but it's still spicy enough where you appreciate the ghost pepper itself.
All right, here we go. Now, I'm a little nervous about the ghost pepper. Because
I ain't afraid of no ghosts.
I'm afraid of a ghost pepper. All right, here we go. Ready?
Oh, fuck.
Okay, that's super spicy. Woo! How do you like it?
Just because I'm Indian, holy, like, that's spicy.
Right? It's spicy, right? Want some yogurt? Want yogurt? Can we get yogurt?
Oh, that's fucking hot.
Bring that in. Oh my God. Somebody just dropped us a mango lassi.
My ears are like sweating.
Holy shit, that is good. But that counters the ghost pepper in a very delicious way.
That's nice.
I love how you don't do spice, but you have like this whole show about Indian food.
Yeah, so I don't do spice, which is like a huge misconception on Indian people. People think we can handle like chili pepper after chili pepper after chili pepper.
I think, look, it's like anybody else. Like some people have a higher tolerance for spice, some people have a lower tolerance. I don't have a huge high tolerance for spice. My father can eat like just chili peppers raw.
Not always is spice correlated with like the burning heat
Right,
that's
sure,
like
yeah.
knocking my throat back
Yeah,
right now.
I got you, yeah.
But it gets to the flavors. How important is spice in Indian food?
That's what Indian cooking is. Chefs in India will just sort of intuit what the spices are, what the spices need to be, and it's almost like jazz, you know? Indian cooking is like jazz.
Yeah, no, it reminds me of when my mom was cooking and trying to teach me, and then I was like, no, let me know the exact recipe. And she's like,
there's no
throwing
exact.
stuff in, and then I was like, how much? She's like, however much you feel.
However much you feel. It's all about throwing a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and it's all an intuitive understanding of how these flavors all move together and weave together.
Yeah, it's like they're creating this tapestry of flavor boy town, you know?
Yeah.
I love adding boy to the end
You
of
do
every
like to
word.
say boy a lot.
Slappy pappy, wham, gee.
Right.
The spicy shit's fucking with my head. Next up, we have Junoon's Shahi lamb shank. The lamb shank is made with black cumin yogurt curry and garam masala and paired with potato sali.
Let's do it. So you just rip it. You just go in. Just go right in.
I go big.
Yeah?
Okay.
Let's go.
It's mild. I
It's
can
not
handle it.
spicy like
It's not
the last one.
spicy. It's not always spicy.
Let's go.
At some point, Americans decided that foods like Indian or Mexican are considered cheap eats, but they're willing to spend $20, $30 on a bowl of pasta.
I mean, I think that's changing, and I think it has changed now. A lot of the Indian food that people were exposed to was much more kind of, low end. I think now you're seeing a lot more innovation and a lot more interesting flavors, and a lot of these high-end places like Junoon are doing really interesting things, like we saw with the ghost pepper chicken. I think Indian food has now become a totally legitimate high-end food with real artistry and the kind of sense of a chef bringing their personality to it.
So we got one more dish coming.
Yeah.
Are you ready
I am.
for the lobster?
Wow.
Last but not least, we have Junoon's Lobster Moily. The dish is made with lobster, coconut milk, fenugreek, turmeric, and heirloom tomato.
I've never had lobster in an Indian restaurant before. It's good. Very coconutty.
I feel like lobster in a high-end restaurant is a very common piece that shows you, it indicates that we out here ballin'.
More than any one particular sort of dish, I think it's more the innovation, the presentation, the different flavors, the different influences, the cross-pollination. I think that's where the status symbol sort of is around Indian food. Not so much in whether it's lobster or duck or, you know what I mean?
No, and I feel like I've had a prawn curry. So for me, this isn't so far.
It's similar to that, right?
But I think you are right. The more creative they can get, the more high-end it seems.
Right.
Because they're throwing it together in an unusual way that actually works. So you have a one-man show coming out in October. It's actually a return, Sakina's restaurant.
Yep.
And it focuses on the immigrant coming here and finding a place in the culinary world. Why is food a powerful connection to cultural identity?
As a person who wanted to tell stories about immigrants, who wanted to tell stories about identity, food became a great access point. It became an entry point into that world and into that culture. We said it in a restaurant, and we use food as a metaphor for integration. You integrate two aspects of yourself together. That's what food can do. You take a spice from here, you take a flavor from there, you put it together, you create something new, and that's what you and I actually are. You're Canadian, but you're many things, right? I'm American, Indian, British. And so we're kind of this masala, and that is the metaphor of Indian food, and that is the metaphor into the sort of muddled up identity that we carry around with us.
Well, thank you very much for joining me on this journey through spice and food.
Thank you very much for inviting me and for paying for dinner. You're paying for dinner, right?
No, you're paying
No, I think
for
you're
dinner.
paying for dinner.
You got the check. I got a place to be.
I don't think I have the check. What? I think, I believe somebody needs to call my agent because that was not part of the deal.